It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
And so it sounds so easy to us, right? Because we do this every day. We are financial advisors for a living. But there's a real reason why I think a lot of people don't do what you said. Hey, don't try to time it. Don't try to figure it out. But just invest and believe in the innovation and technology of the future will be great. It's because at our core, I think a lot of us suffer from loss aversion. We are really afraid of losing money. We're afraid of loss. We're afraid of negative outcomes. And a lot of times we're more afraid of those negative outcomes than we even are for the potential positive reward.
Yeah, so let's take an example of what is loss aversion.
I flip a coin and you guess heads or tails. If you're right, you get $1,000. But if you're wrong, you lose $1,000. Would you take me up on this
50-50
bet?
odds.
No? What about $1,100 if you win and still only $1,000 if you lose?
Still
no.
50-50
But you have a
odds,
chance of
but bet on
gaining
the upside.
more than you would lose. All right, fine. What about a $2,000 win and only $1,000 loss? Based on studies, this is the amount that some people would start considering this bet. This is called loss aversion. People are so much more concerned about what they could lose than what they could gain.
I think it's interesting, Bo. Whenever we have a brand new client, we do a risk meeting with them. And we kind of go through a very similar exercise that's really getting to the core of loss aversion. And he's spot on in the fact that you almost have to double the upside compared to the downside to really move people to make that decision of, hey, take a little bit more risk. We as humans are obviously very fearful of losing. You can see it in advertising. You can see it in how things are marketed to us. Think about life insurance and other things. They're marketed through fear because they know that we're so scared of what we could lose more than the gains that are out there to be made.
And I think what's so sad is when we think about this in the financial world, there's a lot of people who won't invest because of this, because they're afraid of markets going down. We know anecdotally, you've heard us say this all the time, that markets generally make money 8 out of 10 years, but it's those 2 years, that potential of downturn. And I think in today's day and age, all the constant noise being thrown at us, telling us how scary things are and how the next downturn is right around the corner, people become so afraid of that, it prevents them from actually doing the less risky thing, which is just getting their money working for them for a market that generally goes up over the long term.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this play out, whether it's the media trying to scare you, whether it's some political event that's going on. Loss aversion is used in so many different concepts that impact your wallet, whether it's marketing or pitching things to you. But I think the healthiest way, if you're trying to figure out how does this apply to your finances, is really kind of to apply that quote that we use. We've used this a good bit with Peter Lynch. Far more money has been lost by investors trying to anticipate corrections than lost in the corrections themselves. There's a lot to be learned from that.
And I think it's easier for us to say, oh, well, that's Peter Lynch. You know, he's a fund manager. He's got $1 gazillion. He's one of the wealthy folks. Of course, he would say that. When you actually take a step back and you look at what the market does when you compare bull markets to bear markets, it's a great illustration we have here from First Trust that shows how long bull markets last relative to bear markets and how severe or how good bull markets are relative to how bad bear markets are. And it pales in comparison. If you walked into the Las Vegas casino and they gave you these odds on their games, there's no way that you'd walk out without making money so long as you just showed up. But a lot of people, because of loss aversion, are so afraid of that downside, they never actually get in the game to participate in the upside.
Well, this is even better than if you had a good casino or something that gave you great odds. Because for anybody who's listening to the podcast, I want to highlight something that you might not be able to see. This illustration from First Trust goes all the way back to the 1940s.
Yep.
And this is what I think is interesting. I think I'm going to start with the negative first. The average bear market period lasted 11.3 months with an average cumulative loss of 32%. That sounds pretty bad.
That sounds pretty severe.
I mean, losing 32%, that means if you had $1 million, you're going to walk away from $320,000 over 11 months. That sounds horrible. But think about this. The average bull market period lasted 4.4 years with an average cumulative total return of 154.9, essentially 155%. So you can hear, I mean, just think about what I just shared. And if you could see this visually, you'd see it on actually from a visual standpoint. The upside is so much grander, so much bigger than even what you're risking. So take that to give you context, to ground you so you can make the right decisions to your wealth building journey.
And what I love about this is a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm so nervous. That's why we have a plan for you. If you're following the financial order of operations, you can go out and check out our free deliverable at moneyguide.com/resources. It provides you the quote unquote safety net to be able to weather those downturns. So even if we do enter into one of these bear markets, even if we do enter into a downturn, you can feel comfortable knowing you've taken the steps necessary that will allow you to weather that so you can actually participate in the good stuff.
Well, Bo, you just said it, because I think another thing besides just being the aversion to losses,